Aquatica, a new underwater-themed DLC for Ark Survival Evolved, just announced by Snail Games. Most of the time, you'd expect a lot of excitement over this news, right? I mean, what's not to like? Brand new content to mark the 10th anniversary of the game, underwater expansion especially. Something a lot of players have wanted for a long, long time. And a topic I've even covered myself in the past because it just always felt like such an overlooked part of the game. But no, this is possibly the worst received news there's ever been. Certainly since I started playing at the very least. And for a number of reasons. All of which just show that Snail Games are really just out of touch with the community. To begin with, there seems to be no involvement from Studio Wildcard at all here. In fact, they even went so far as to put out their own little statement in advance saying it's not made by them. Even the biggest Wildcard critics, understand that Ark it's their baby, and while not perfect, they do really care about it. So this is a pretty big red flag for a lot of people on its own. But that's just the surface of this, really, as the announcement hasn't exactly come with some great media to support it and build hype either. To be fair, the description on its Steam page is actually quite enticing. Details an Ark which crash-landed in the Atlantic after extinction, element leaking out causing mutations in the local sea life, 17 new creatures to facilitate an underwater lifestyle, 60 new items, and potentially even being able to adapt land creatures to life underwater as well. All of this actually does sound pretty good, and what I would hope to see with a new DLC. If left at that, I think we'd probably have a decent amount of interest actually, a bit of hype and mystery and speculation. But in addition to this, they also gave us, there's some pictures which I really don't know what the thought was behind sharing these. Half of them don't even look like they're underwater. There's basically nothing of note in any of them except for the odd new creature. And even if it is for an older game like ASE, we know it can look better than this. Worse still though is that along with this came a little bit of footage, which, I don't know what to say. I'm typically quite forgiving of this sort of thing, I think looking at how short this is and how little is here, to me it feels clearly like a very quick internal, here's a rough idea setup put together to show development progress to managers rather than something that should probably be shown public, which is fair enough. I'm not bothered by the fact that they're clearly reusing a lot of Atlas assets because after all, they own it to begin with. A bit cheap, maybe not even tweaking them up for Ark. But yeah, whatever. What I'm not forgiving of though, is that not being content with just having this rather poor footage as their first reveal, they then followed it up with a fully AI-generated trailer. Something that not only feels absolutely awful to watch and has no real relevance, but just feels so out of touch with everything. In fact, the reaction to this was so negative that it got pulled from YouTube in a matter of hours due to just how phenomenally bad the reception was. What does this mean for Ark, of course? Well, to be honest, probably very little. There are a lot of people saying, why release for ASE at all, but, I know quite a few Evolved players who are just happy that there is still content coming. And as it is for the 10th anniversary of Survival Evolved, it doesn't really surprise me that much there either. Honestly, despite all the doom and gloom going on, people saying that this is the end of Ark and all that, life will go on. In a week, people will have moved on. I don't think it's really going to be of any major consequence. My big complaint is just with the trailer more than anything. It just suggests they do not understand at all. For the content itself, as always, the best thing is if you don't want it, if you don't want to support it, don't buy it. If anything, this feels like it's probably influenced a little bit by the success of things like the premium mods or the fantastic tames. It's just giving them the message that the community is just hungry for more and will buy. anything. Now, on a more positive note, however, if some of your disappointment is specifically about how it looks like they've ruined the final implementation of an ocean world, then all is not lost. It's not quite a direct competitor, as the active development here is for ASA and not ASE, but as many are aware, there is a free mod in production called the Sunken World. And while still only in the early stages, their work just blows what we see from Snail here out of the water. We've talked a bit about it on the channel before, as I truly do love the idea of this. But for those who aren't aware, this is a leviathan of a project, with the end goal being an experience almost entirely set under the ocean. Right now, the mod consists of 11 completely new creatures, along with several resources and items, all of amazing quality, and all able to be used on any map. More is on its way, of course, and the previews I've seen just continue to impress me so much. In total, the goal it's well beyond even a DLC level project, with an absurd 52 new species and 24 sunken variants of existing Ark animals. I obviously can't go into all of them or we'll be here all day, but to mention just a few, we've got smaller things like the upcoming pint-sized Anki Liaoningosaurus, living scuba tank Anomalocaris, and even tiny treasure-detecting shark of the Stethocanthus. Whereas up on the larger end, we have things like the colossal Omnidons, the wyvern-like waterworms, volcanic magma turtle, or even a living island in the shape of the blue whale. Sadly, map-wise, we don't have anything playable as yet, as they would rather get further along and into something you can properly play from start to finish before they release it. But what they do have is some previous ASE work we can look at, which actually gives us a very nice comparison to what Snail have shown us. They've learned a lot in the 2 years since this map was made, as well as obviously adjusted some of their plans to take into account some of the new ASA technology. But it already shows so much promise of what they're capable of here. Planning over 20 different regions and biomes with a hefty helping of caves, it'll certainly be a huge change from the current rather bland oceans we're used to. Floating islands, kelp forests, mushroom glades, thermal reefs, mangrove swamps, even an entire sunken tech city. There should just be no shortage of variety down there to stop it just feeling like a big blue empty void. Now, as said, ASA work is currently very early days. There's not a huge amount to be shown there, but progress is coming along, and there are a number of screenshots and small clips that I've been given permission to share with you here, including this absolutely beautiful coral reef here. Again, this is a huge project, well beyond even most DLCs. Obviously, the map is the really big one that we all hope to see sooner rather than later, but a big underwater world isn't going to be very appealing without the creatures and the tools to live in it. But they've gone beyond that. They're giving it its own story, its own music, explorer notes. We've got entire item and building sets to let you have a full life under there, from Bob to Boss Ark playthrough with minimal time above the waves. And really, it's the existence of mods like this that just further add to that disappointment of the Aquatica announcement, because it shows just how amazing of a concept this all can be if you have the passion for it. From concept art through to the models and maps, everything in between, all of this is done by a small group in their spare time. And really, it speaks volumes that an official release like this, which would normally be a death sentence for all of their work, is instead just worryingly out of its depth by comparison. If you would like to know more about this mod, you can join their Discord via the links down in the description and comments. And if you'd like to help support the work so it can be brought to us quicker, all the information and people to talk to can be found on there as well. And of course, best of all, not a single bit of this is AI.